What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Monday Night Football Showdown show here on the SHIPIT Nation YouTube station. Got my guys with me as always, Hoopster and Title. Bring them in a second. Going to be talking all things Atlanta at Philly. We got ownership. We're going to break it down from the captain position. We're going to talk about all the stuff when it comes to flex, how you set up your rosters. A lot of groupthink tonight, but Hoop, I'll bring you in first. We had a pretty good week 2 over at the Nation, from golf and the showdown streets. We had MMA big winners on Saturday, Sunday. A lot of people posting in the chat, but pretty good week overall. I didn't have the best week. I think you said you didn't, but that's the benefit of just seeing the others and surrounding ourselves with those people. Lots of good winners out there.
Yeah, I mean, in the tournament streets yesterday, it was Kamara or no cash. I mean, the dude went. I guess, I mean, you could have done well without him. I mean, there's other guys that went well, and he wasn't all that did well, and he wasn't all that highly owned. So, but to win the big stuff, you needed Alvin Kamara. I had some on DraftKings, not enough. He was only like 4 or 5% owned. I think I had like 8-9% in my 150, and I like faded him on FanDuel, so that definitely didn't work out all that well. But it was an interesting week. I mean, you saw Marvin Harrison Jr. after completely busting, and you saw all the analytical guys on there. Oh, he's no separation from the cornerbacks, like he's going to be a bust, and then he just freaking goes off in the first quarter, like no one guarding him. Like all the separation in the world went from no separation to a ton of separation, apparently. That's why some of the statistics and numbers and stuff just kind of, that's part of the reason it drives me nuts. I mean, people are literally jerking off to the fact that he could not separate from the cornerbacks in week 1. And then he just like nukes the entire slate. So good to see that. I mean, I like seeing young guys come into the league and get the job done. Shit on Kyler Murray a lot. I mean, I really do. He looked pretty good. Yeah, he had himself a good game. But I think the overarching issue there is I don't think the Rams are very good, and they continue to see the injuries pile up. Cooper Kupp, but a lot of big teams went down. Dallas lost, Detroit lost, Baltimore lost. But fantasy wise, we saw big performances. Pricing was really, really soft on DraftKings this week, which I really hope that they adjust that for week 3. Probably not going to happen. I imagine we're going to have soft pricing.
I think Mason's still 6,200 if I saw right in the Discord.
God, if that's the case, it's just super disappointing, dude. I mean, it takes the skill out of it a little bit. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out Mason at 6,200 is going to be a very, very strong play. I mean, the guy's getting more work than just about anybody in the NFL. So if that is true, that's a huge miss and relatively unfortunate for week 3. But we're here to talk the showdown slate. And we have the Eagles and the Falcons. Some injury news, obviously, with A.J. Brown. So let's see if we can find some winners tonight.
Yeah, if you're disappointed in pricing, just wait till we get to Jalen Hurts tonight on this slate, and it gets worse. So before I bring Title in, I will say that is funny, and the chat brought it up. You make fun of 2 quarterbacks for being bad real life for being bad real life quarterbacks, but good fantasy. And you were on Dak yesterday. If you had just been on the other guy that you usually mentioned, Kyler, it would have all lined up. And I love our Discord. The best comment I saw all day yesterday, probably in the Discord, was someone said he took the e-brake off. They said the guy was in 16 miles per hour. He popped the e-brake, and then he hit that 21 miles an hour or whatever, goes out and finds those touchdowns.
Yeah, if you played Dak yesterday, which obviously I did. He was my highest owned quarterback on FanDuel and DraftKings. We talked about it a ton on the show. I mean, literally, I'm sitting there like drooling when the Saints get up. Worse. Oh, the Saints get up 14-3. I'm like, here we go, baby. This is exactly what you wanted. I mean, that is the exact perfect run out. If you play Dak, I was like, all right, we are in prime position. He's going to get the job done. Like, it's the game script that you want. They're not going to run it anymore. And they just died, and he sucked. And it was unfortunate, but that's like that's the situation you want. I was already adding up the money. Unfortunately, it never came to fruition there.
It's the other thing too. We just did the review show, Nades and I, but like when people are like, how did you get to Alvin Kamara at 4%? It's like, if we're all over these Dak stacks, we had the little tidbit in the Discord on Saturday of Kamara in that spot. It just worked a completely different way with them being up so much. But that's how you just land on that guy and end up getting more of him. If Dak had done his job, we would have had a ton of good stuff going on there. Oh, yeah. Title, what's up, man? I made you wait long enough. I'll bring you in. Lots to talk about here on this slate, but how was your week 2? Any other thoughts from yesterday you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, slightly profitable. Take that any day, but it was, like Hoop said, 10 yards short for CD for the bonus. Dak was like 8 yards short, and they had like 2 possessions. It ran so bad. Brock Purdy, that San Fran stuff could have absolutely nuked as well. That was really tilting.
Yeah.
Here, but hey, it was it's ball day, Monday game, decent news. Like the AJ Brown stuff opens up a lot.
Is that guy out? Is he
Oh
getting out?
man, it might be like why you guys never warned me. You do just kind of like take it in for a second and be like, wow, that is interesting, instead of just telling the person. But yeah, title might be cut off for a second. His internet's in and out. But the key would be what our guy Nate said.
Good point.
It's not over yet. We got time tonight, and we got a slate here. We'll give him a chance just to get back through there. I like our guy Eric. Appreciate him always killing it in the NASCAR streets. Says 108, only 35 likes. Let's do the like button. Let's get it rolling. The stone is off the table because we didn't get the likes yesterday, so we got it. I got the stone here. We're going to do the dry run and show it off. But Hoop, just first thoughts on this slate. I teased it a little bit earlier, but man, I don't know how Hurts is only $15K in the captain. He's the third highest price to Bijan Robinson and Saquon Barkley.
So obviously they're continuing on with their trend of pricing down these quarterbacks, which I get if it's a non-running quarterback. Like Kirk Cousins, 9K, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. But I really hope at some point they realize these running quarterbacks need to be the most expensive guys on the slate. Like Jalen Hurts should be the most expensive guy. Whatever their top price is, this week or this slate looks like it's 10-6. Jalen Hurts should be like 11K plus. And, at this price tag, it's going to be extremely popular, which, these guys on these single game slates are regardless. But he's going to be very over the top popular today. It's going to be easy to fit him in. We have cheap plays with AJ Brown ruled out as well. Not necessarily in the captain, but he's got to be like 95% to be on like the optimal today. It's a situation where I'm going to get him into all my teams tonight and just go from there. It's a free square, and then as much as I can in the captain. I mean, there's just no sugarcoating it. I'm not going to come on here and pretend like that's not what I'm going to do. It's 100% what I'm going to do tonight.
I flashed it up. They asked for it. Yeah, faster than Marvin Harrison Jr. Even in week 2, got faster internet speeds than that. Hopefully our guy Title is back, but Hoop talked about it. I did the dry run over here on ShipIt just to see Hoop. And I forgot to turn the randomness off. I was like, oh, only 41%. That seems odd. No. 61% in the captain for Jalen Hurts is what we're getting just on the dry run, 150 lineups because, the pricing, the everything that we talked about and more. So how do you have this playing out when the setup is that you essentially, have people playing onslaughts already? They're talking about them. They're going to be playing 4-2s. All of this stuff. So how are you getting different? We can start the captain conversation off while Title gets back in here, just with Jalen Hurts and using him, leveraging by going way overweight. That's definitely a way to get different. If he's 30%, just jam him in. But how else are you getting different?
Yeah, I think that's like the number one thing. I mean, even if we think he's going to be popular, the true number is probably 25 to 30% range. It's probably where yeah. So it's going to be somewhere right in that range. And, it's easy. That's number one. You can play him in amounts way over that 25%. You're just going to have more combinations if it is Hurts captain that needs to win. And obviously it's showdown. And this is a question, like, never ask this question if you're watching this YouTube show, if you're someone that's not a member, if you are a member and in the Discord, just please never ask this question again. If you do watch this show, can I leave salary on the table for showdown? The answer is always yes. The answer is always yes. And that question comes up, and I get it. Some people are new to the game, totally fine. But if you're watching this and you're thinking that and wondering, the answer is always in showdown. You can leave big chunks of salary on the table. One game, anything can happen. That's number one, though. Be fine leaving the big chunks of salary on the table. Do some weird stuff. A lot of people, if they play Hurts captain, they just want one pass catcher because he's a running quarterback. Play 2 pass catchers. Maybe look at a lineup with potentially 3 pass catchers. Just do weird things to get different. Number one for me, though, would definitely be to just go overweight if you really like them, like way overweight, and then do some of the weird things that I kind of talked about there.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes too, because there's other stuff. We'll talk about AJ Brown out, obviously, so we'll get there. Title, you back?
I hope so.
Yeah, we got you. Did you catch any of that? If not, we're just talking about Hurts being 25, maybe 25 to 30 is his range probably for captain tonight. And the original dry run on ShipIt is 61%, obviously a way just to use them, just other ways to use them up top.
Yeah, no, I like getting overweight on Hurts. I just think Atlanta looks so bad with Kirk Cousins. And again, what happens in week 1 doesn't mean it happens in week 2, as we saw with Marvin Harrison and all that. But I'm taking the stand at least that Kirk Cousins is pretty dust right now. So there's only so many captains you want to roster. With no A.J. Brown, I'll be playing the Devontae. I'll be playing a lot of Hurts. How you can play him too, like a 2-4. A lot of people 3-3s and 4-2 Eagles. If you go Hurts captain and just go Devontae, just say he gets all the work, or Saquon and Hurts get it all done and run 4 Falcons. That's a way to get different. Again, like you talk about, leaving $3K in salary, totally fine. Play Hurts up there, leave $3K. There's plenty of ways you can get different there. So I'm definitely playing Hurts, even at that 25-26%.
And I usually don't play him. I may just try and do something a little different and play the, just over the field. Like I'll just play 30%. If he comes in at 30, 33, I'm at or under. If he comes in at 25, I'm slightly over. But I'm not going to leave him off completely. I don't want to go all in just because I'm trying to ship it unique and get different other ways. But I think the only good thing about this slate, I really don't love it off the top. But the only good thing I would say is what Hoop mentioned earlier. You can leave $5,000 in 2 seconds. Like if you run it back and land on Bijan Robinson, I can literally just take him out and play Darnell Mooney and hope he gets a late shot and it goes to him and he outdoes Bijan, who did nothing. There's $5,000 on the table. So it's like there is tons of ways to get different. There's also, because of some of the stuff, like if Ray McLeod is super popular at $3K in the flex for Atlanta, you can play one of like Hodge or somebody else, the backup tight end behind Pitts. Like there is unique guys you can go to plus leaving salary to make it so you can still find good unique lineups or more unique lineups with Hurts than just jamming in the ones that everyone's going to land on. But other than that, it's, it looks pretty heavy. Like it's going to be a Philly onslaught type night just because of how bad Atlanta looked week 1. I think you will have to get different with some 4-2s, some 3-3s, some of those things as well. Anything extra there, Title?
No, what do you think of like Hurts and then just one other, like the 2-4 you talk about? So 2
Yep.
Eagles, but one of them's in the captain spot, and they just, whether it's all Dallas Goedert, let's say, because with no A.J. Brown, it's definitely concentrated. Obviously, Saquon makes easy sense. He has a game like last week. You could have 4 the other side. Hurts, 2 QB sneaks. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I always like those anyway, and I think it's a great way tonight to do it because it's a setup where if Hurts runs a couple in, I actually think the Atlanta side, if they do put any fight up, it's probably going to be pretty condensed, right? It's going to be Cousins that finally is connecting with some of these guys. It's going to be London, who was out there a bunch, Pitts, Bijan, whatever. To me, that screams like you could run a 2-4, even a 1-5 with Hurts, which means just Hurts up top, run all the condensed. I prefer the 2-4 way more, and that's what I'll land on. I'm just saying this is an example where it was asked the other day, and Hoop mentioned it. Hurts, Josh Allen, CMC when he plays and is not on the IR, rest in peace to those best ball shares. But when that stuff happens, those guys are the guys that can literally just do it all themselves. And it's just like, okay, maybe a couple other guys get a few catches, but the guys on the other side playing catch up end up making up all that volume, all those DraftKings points. So Hoop, anything to add on that or just different roster constructions up top there? Because I think the 5-1, 4-2, 4-2 for sure, 3-3 with a Philly captain, and even 5-1 Philly will be more popular than usual. All those.
Yeah, the Philly stuff is definitely going to be more popular. I don't mind, Hurts captain with 1 pass catcher and then 4 Falcons guys, I think is an interesting route to go. And there are some cheap guys, which we'll get to and talk about. So there's a lot of different ways, I think, definitely to get different. But, Philly heavy teams are going to be very popular tonight, would be my guess, because of the value that has emerged with A.J. Brown being ruled out. So, flip it a little bit, do the, 4-2. I don't have any interest in like a 5-2 Falcons. Like no chance I'm playing that, but like 4-2.
I don't think anyone's playing 5-2s tonight.
Yeah. Did I say 5-2? Yeah. You haven't heard of the new Showdown?
Onyx members only. Hoops got
this. You get an extra roster spot.
One extra spot to get some more points in there.
Yeah, right. I need it after yesterday. So no, it's just doing things a little bit different, leaving salary way overweight. I think is the route to go. Yeah,
and I like that call too. Like just some of the other stuff. It's not saying you can, if you want to experiment, you got 150 lineups and you got some in there. Yeah, you'll be really unique if you run a 5-1 Atlanta, but that's like the same to me as when people cap at 45,000. Then they're like, boom, 150 uniques. Yeah, you left $5,000 on the table in every single one. it's nice if you ship it, but over the long term, I just don't see it personally. You can get a ton of low dupe lineups still at 48.5 or at 48.9 and still get better spots in there to still keep your ceiling up without just risking it just to say you got unique. That would kind of fit the same bill of with the injury statuses on that side tonight. It's so unlikely. Hence why I said earlier, the 2-4 or obviously beyond that of using multiple Eagles versus trying to get unique by going 5-1 Atlanta stacks. So agree there. Anything else, Title, you want to add on that? I saw a couple more things I want to bring up, but just anything else you want to add on that?
No, one thing and kind of on your topic. So for me lately, I've been shooting for like the 25 dupe range. Like, man, I cannot find that sweet spot that some people do down there. Like, I'm not going to leave 4K and be like, all right, Johnny Wilson, you're outscoring Devontae Smith today. Obviously, that was a little bit of a reach. But as far as like if you drop down from like a Dallas Goedert to like a Bill or a defense, that's like 3K that way and eliminates. So I don't know if you want to talk any bit about that.
Like yesterday, this is a showdown. You can get away with anything, but like yesterday in showdown in a main slate, I think Braylon Allen almost outscored Hall, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's random luck and it's the way it goes, they both scored. Like who stacked up? And also one of them was, I think maybe two of them were passing, but Hall caught a nice one, which would put those wide receivers on notice. And it was like, who had Aaron Rodgers with Allen and Hall and just fill your first three spots? Nobody, right? You're just not going to get there. But this, just dropping it down, you can definitely get away with it. I was going to bring this stuff up, not just to switch gears, but a couple things noted. The Dotson love already. So there's a couple things. Dotson's only 4K. They brought him over to start the season from the Commanders. Everybody expects him to be more involved. But then people mention sort of how they play. Typically, you know, some guys like Calcaterra could get in there instead behind Goddard. Goddard could get a bunch more targets. He's out there a bunch. Also, they're supposed to, again, we won't know till we get to later today, but they're supposed to activate, suspected to activate Paris Campbell, elevate him to the main lineup. He's $200 on this slate as well in the flex, I believe.
You messing with all those guys down there? Putting a max 1 rule.
I'm definitely
right there before
because they're not going to show up, but I'm going to probably mess with that if like it's Ray McLeod and somebody else. Like I'm probably not running him with another guy just because, not that you're going to get a bunch of it, but just to say it, I think Campbell is in the price. Someone mentioned it earlier. I thought, yeah, for sure. He is. So he's just still at 0 because he hasn't been elevated yet, but $200 for him. So just to note that, Hoop, like, anything you see yourself doing there with some of these lower guys. I know we're on captain right now, but was just curious if that changes how you set it up, because with Hurts at captain, that was my only takeaway is the ways to get different are when you have Calcaterras, you have a Wilson or a Covey. I think Wilson's actually questionable too, but you have a Campbell, you have some of these other guys. You don't just have to play Devontae Smith, Dotson, or Goddard, etc., or Goddard, and play it that way.
The problem I'm seeing with these super cheap guys kind of revolves around the softer pricing of the quarterbacks and all the positions. Like Showdown 2 years ago, like the top players were way more expensive. It was like $12,000 for the top rushing quarterbacks. The top wide receivers would be in the 10K range. The top running backs could potentially be in the 10K range. What these cheap guys have to do now is they have to outscore legitimate guys. They have to outscore the kickers or like a defense or a wide receiver 2 or 3. Like the need for the super cheap guys, I just don't think is as prevalent. We haven't seen it on the Showdown slate. Correct me if I'm wrong, where like a full-on $200 punt has been on the optimal. Like, could it happen? Yes. The way it happened in the past, though, was like you needed 5 studs. Like there's 5 studs on the slate that all got 20 plus fantasy points, and you just needed a $200 guy. It didn't matter what he did. If he got 4, that was good enough. And we saw teams like that win. We saw those teams be optimal, where it's the 5 studs and one $200 punt. It really didn't matter what the $200 punt did. You just needed those other 5 guys. Like the way pricing is nowadays, I just don't know if it's necessary to take the risk on some of these cheap guys. So I've been trying to almost eliminate them. But yeah, if a guy like Paris Campbell gets elevated, there's a reason he gets elevated. I mean, he could be out there as like the wide receiver 3. So I would take a look at him, but I'm just kind of skeptical right now in terms of roster construction, if it's really needed on most slates.
And you got to tell yourself that story. I'm glad you brought that up. I love that call. It's like, that's the thing. If you're getting a shootout slate where you're seeing that. Like
Yeah.
here, you have to have it go that way. Do you need to be able to fit Hurts, Devonta Smith, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Cousins? Well, then, yeah, you're going to need that cheap guy. But do you see that being the actual game flow, the game plan, where the most points are coming from? So especially for those, most of you playing, 1 to 20 max, not everybody out there I know is playing full set MME 150 max. That's where you got to think about that stuff when you're building it, right? That's kind of the thought process you should be putting into your lineups just to make it Monday. Or one of our projections masters out there says, can I leave money on the table? Just going back to pick at hoop there. So love that call.
He was gone for that. Perfect timing.
He knew it was coming. We got him.
Yeah.
Other stuff then I'll just go through quickly. Devonta Smith, just going back to the captain, next man up. Obviously no price adjustment. It was a possibility that Brown played. We got the news very early this week that he wasn't playing, so that's pretty set there. Dallas Goedert, a fan favorite from SHIPIT Nation members. Nades and myself once chopped a slate with Goddard up top, so we always got a little bit of love for that. Barkley surprisingly not getting much love up there, and him and Bijan are more expensive than Hurts, so that is the obvious part of it. And then also not quite, not quite that far apart in price. $300 in the captain spot. He's for sure trolling. Monday's our guy. I'm just messing around with him. Did you see that hoop? He said, I leave money on the table in Showdown. But the other thing, title, was the other night. Is this in people's mind? Maybe not by the looks of ownership, but James Cook just dominated Josh Allen. By the way, YouTube chat got their first W, Bills and under. So congrats to the YouTube chat out there. We will put it up again today. But title, I'll kick that to you. Is, could you just go to Barkley here and hope that they continue with them? And he didn't even get a lot of passing work in the first game as much as he could get now with AJ Brown out. So any thoughts on Barkley up top there? He's not showing a lot of love.
Yeah, I like Barkley. I like Bijan. They're my second after Hurts. They're my favorite, and they're going to be half the ownership. I think I lean Bijan because I know I lean Bijan just because with how bad Kirk looked, all he looked for was for the check down. And he got all the work. Finally, with Arthur Smith out of town, Algier was non-existent. Again, who knows if that'll be the exact same. What happened in week 1 doesn't mean it's exactly going to happen in week 2, but it was very good usage for him. He caught a lot of passes out of the backfield, very good TD prop. Yeah, so Bijan's my favorite after Hurts, and I probably want to be somewhere like double the field. He's coming 12, 13%. I like Barkley as my third favorite. After that, Devontae, and then it's a huge gap after that. They'll probably make up 85% of my captain pool, those four, I would think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going to say just give us the game score. Just tell us what the game score is. We'll figure it out. Maybe you don't know the over-under, so that will automatically not cheat the system that way, but I don't think anybody is picking the Falcons, or at least not enough, so we already knew it was going to be Eagles. We'll get a note on if it's over or under. Put the score of the game, final score, into the chat, and that'll give us an idea on how people might be building as well. Hoop, other captains, we talked, Devonta Smith when you stepped away, I think just for a second, but Goddard, Smith, Barkley, Bijan Robinson, and then maybe Drake London, but also maybe like defense and kicker, just if you think that is, an Eagles spot where they just smash. But I don't know, your thoughts on other captains. The numbers are on the screen.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just going to be Philadelphia captains for me tonight. I think I'm just going to fade all the Atlanta stuff. Bijan, definitely not playing Drake London's ass. I mean, me and Title have a hard time with that guy. I just cannot click that name up top. I'm sure some people go to Pitts. I'm just gonna bank. I think the Eagles have a chance to just stomp them tonight. Like a lot of people thought Kirk Cousins, and I know it's a 1 game sample size. I wasn't really buying it coming into the season though either. So I guess that's kind of where I get the free pass on already saying that the Falcons suck, but I just don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to change the dynamic of this team, to be honest with you. So I don't know. I'll probably fade all the Falcons up top, and all my captains will be listed in the player pool. What I do eventually end up doing, follow my same process where we do the show here, and then as soon as we get off, I start working on my teams and working on the content, get it up nice and early for you guys, like everyone on our team does. So it'll all be listed there, but I just think the Eagles, I think there's going to be at least one Eagle guy that kind of goes off. Is it Hurts? Is it Barkley? Is it Devonta Smith? Is it Dallas Goedert? I think that'll be like my entire pool at captain, most likely. I got to see once I go in there and start building. I haven't built a team yet, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But I just don't see any of these Falcons guys being there. You can definitely make the case for Bijan, and he'll be the highest owned Falcon captain. Maybe that's one way that I just get a little bit different is, fade him in the captain spot and take all those shares and maybe put it to Barkley because, Barkley obviously game 1 was great. Game 2 could be great too. I just think the Eagles beat the shit out of them. So not much interest in any of the Falcons guys, not much interest in cheap captains either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't have as much interest in the cheap ones either. I might do some Eagles captains up top just in those blowout lineups as a way to flip it and get a little bit different. If you think they just do absolutely nothing, you can build that out quite a few different ways where you can get like Hurts, Smith, get some of the good dudes in from the blowout, and then just land on a mid-range guy and not have to put Bijan in on the other side. So I think that would be another interesting way to do it and at least be unique with it, unlike just going to a cheap captain and landing on all the same dudes everyone else does. Leave the money on the other side, pick some of these guys down the board. But the other one I would say too is the chat really, a lot more mid-range scores from the chat. At the end, a couple came in blowouts, but a lot of these games within 10 points, within 4 points, like, I don't know, maybe they think it's going to be a little bit closer, but it looks like the overall is going to be Eagles, and it's close, but I think it's the under, man. I think people have Eagles in the under. So we'll call it for Eagles plus the under. And then the other thing, Hoop, is the Drake London one that got brought up. The only thing I'll say about that is if he pulls like a Neighbors or a Marv Harrison Jr. or something like where he comes out and has his bounce back game, I will say I don't think he's any of those guys, but I can hit the 2-4 on that one. I can roll him with Cousins, just hope that he's the only guy in the game that gets 2 touchdowns, and that's their only 14 points they score, and then the other way, Philly comes back and does their thing. I could definitely do that. So I
get it, but definitely not going to be for me. I mean, I'll let Title speak for himself on this one because we have the same sort of history with Drake London. Yeah, so I don't want to speak for him, but for me,
it makes sense though. No, I'm not. It totally makes sense.
It's a personal thing. This is the opposite. It's not business. It's personal.
Like Hoop's 100% going to the I know ball. 0 Falcons. He's got some balls. I'm not quite there. I'll hit the X for London and join Hoop, but obviously they want to get him the ball. He's wide receiver 1, drafted really high in the first round. So yeah.
See, I'm just going to end up talking myself into it just for uniques. And I'm just going to play like Cousins with a couple pass catchers because he would get there. He's opposite Hurts. It makes sense if it does push enough that Hurts has a big game. Maybe he comes back. The game yesterday with New Orleans and Dallas, it was kind of the hope. Kirk Cousins is not, I mean, he's not Dak, you could say, or whatever, but the point would be if he has to come back and actually does put up a fight, then maybe. What about Kirk Cousins in primetime? Is that's still
what I was going to ask you. You're playing the captain?
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. I mean, people make anything a thing.
One time last year, but Mike B says right here, Kyle Pitts might be the guy. Kyle Pitts, 10 for 124 and 2 touchdowns. And then Ben says, Mike B, you high. So maybe he is. Maybe he's on the good stuff. I don't know. But I don't know. I guess I can talk myself into some of it. But you guys just aren't going to have room for it anyway because you're going to jam Hurts, and rightfully so. So you'll have a little bit of room to move on the other stuff. But I think that kind of covers where we're at on captain. I definitely think that's where I'd be at anyway. At the other stuff, obviously they come in less here. Hurts is coming in 100% as expected on the dry run. We're getting him fully 60.67 in the captain, 39.33 in the flex, much less Cousins overall, almost none at the captain, very little at the flex. We'll go position by position after, but just to show it, or I guess we could start there. I mean, do you want to talk any more about captain Hoop or any more on quarterback? Tie those together.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, as much Hurts as humanly possible. And then, I'm fine with Cousins in the flex. Like if I think they're playing from behind, like I want the quarterback that could throw it a ton in the second half. So definitely fine with him in the flex. What's his ownership looking like in the flex? Not that it really matters all that much, but I'm just kind of curious.
34% for Cousins.
Yeah, so it's easy to play 40%. And you're overweight on the quarterback that, in my eyes, should be throwing it a ton in the second half.
Yeah, it's going to end up being something else. Like the main things that keep getting brought up, though, in the chat are Ray McLeod. We're going to get to wide receiver, so we'll discuss it then. But Ray McLeod and Jahan Dotson. That's the two guys that are definitely getting steamed up on both sides of the ball because Ray McLeod's a hero. He had 7 targets or whatever it was in week 1. He's going to crush. And then Dotson, this is why they brought him in, man. Like, as soon as they get an injury, he's got to be the guy, of course. So we'll see how it actually goes. Also, the dry run likes underweight stance on Cousins in the flex. And I think I like that too. I think if he's not, that's my take always anyway. It's not that I love him in the captain, but I would say he's either in the game with them and getting it done, or he's probably not at all. Like, I could just see the D crushing him, and it's other stuff dragging along, and it ends up being just those Philly builds that you need with like Pitts on the other side, Mooney on the other side, something like that. You just don't need to have it probably. So I don't know. We'll see what I do there, but that's my last thought on it. Title, any final thoughts at captain and or quarterback before we go to the running back position?
Well, I will say it's really ironic because I was about to say the opposite thing. Why I liked Cousins in the flex, and then you did say a good reason why you didn't. For me, it just I don't think I'll play him at captain because it feels like if he does absolutely nuke, it's either Pitts or London. And maybe that's completely wrong because he does have those other weapons, but he just also has no rushing upside. The reason I thought in the flex was 34% for a QB sounds light, and he's only 9K. So I thought like it'd be easier to get him that way. So I think I will be playing a lot of Cousins flex. I won't be playing any captain. As far as going into running back for flex, it's really easy because both Saquon and Bijan are workhorses. Algier, I have pretty much no interest. Kenny Gainwell, though, I feel like I have to because if I'm playing a lot of Hurts captains, he's only 14%. He gets some passing down work. If he somehow falls in, he'll be low owned. But I don't know what Hoop's laughing at. But
I got Kenny's got jokes. that one we probably won't put up. But yeah, he's got the jokes.
That's my thoughts, though. Running back there's not really many backups. I got to go find this.
Oh, man. All right. Okay.
I saw Hoop laughing the whole time when I was talking. I was like, what is going on?
I was looking at other stats in game 1 and everything first week, and then I go back and see it. So, yeah, it's fine. Go ahead, Hoop. Anything to add on running backs? We just talked through already at the captain, but now we're just talking position by position. So just other spots there. Anybody else you would consider? What if it's a Phillies blowout? Any love for our boy Shipley? Bring it back home to the nation. Get Shipley down the stretch in the fourth quarter. What do you think?
Shipley's got to get it done for us at some point this season. Yeah, maybe tonight's his night. I don't love the $2,000 price tag. Not that it probably matters all that much, but why the hell is Shipley 2,000? Is there a reason that he's not 200?
Run. They don't know to make Hurts the most expensive player on the slate by a wide margin, but they do know to make Shipley 2,000. Yeah. Why is bringing the old? Why is that? Yeah, well, that's what you got to know. Blowout lineup for Shipley. That's the way to do it.
Just automatically get respect when it starts with the old ship tag in there. So, yeah, he's 2,000. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Bijan, want him in the flex. I don't know if I'll play him in the captain or not. Barkley, both. And then Gainwell, Algier, sure, maybe a little bit. Like, I don't want a ton of either of those guys, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I'll play some. Most likely, I'd definitely cap it. If you, for some reason, are getting a bunch of those guys, I'd definitely look to cap it. But, I mean, we got 2 running backs that appear to get all the work for the most part, Bijan and Barkley. Barkley, to me, gets a little boost, obviously, tonight with A.J. Brown being ruled out. It's nice to see he was getting some deep looks, too. Some 30-yard routes, 20-yard routes for a running back is solid. So, I won't have a ton of anyone outside of Bijan or Barkley. Again, you can keep Gainwell and Algier in your player pool, but I'd be definitely looking to cap it.
Yeah, I like that call. And I'm with Colton on this one. We're going to segue into wide receiver because I got nothing else to add at the running back position. I do think that Mooney is interesting tonight for sure, especially if people go into Dotson on the other side for less. He's 4,000. So just thinking about filling out a flex spot, that's where people would land. Even on the other side, I think people are more likely to land on Ray McLeod or other options there. So I definitely think I've got interest in Mooney sort of splitting the difference there in the middle. It does look like he's getting some ownership right now. We have him up there, I think, at 24%, actually pretty higher than I thought, but we've got Ray McLeod at a similar number. So
I think the reason is definitely there's just not any true standout super cheap guys. Like there's no like 200 guys that are projecting well. There's just nothing way down there that's projecting well. So anything with a decent price tag is going to get elevated ownership for that reason.
Yeah, that's sort of how I'm seeing it as well. And I was trying to see what that looks like there. But yeah, I like that call. Title, I'll go to you on wide receiver here. You can start either side you choose, but definitely people talking about the Ray McCloud, the Dotson stuff. Eagles side is interesting because obviously with AJ Brown out, if they do elevate Paris Campbell as is expected. So where are you at here on the wide receiver position?
Yeah, I think I like the Falcons receivers more in the flex than I do Eagles. For the most part, that I'm not really playing many Falcons captains outside of Bijan. And like I will have Devontae Smith captain, the Saquons. So I'm hoping if they get there, they just absolutely nuke. And whereas I'm not really playing Drake London there, you can leave 1K from Devontae Smith to Drake London in the flex, and that can eliminate plenty chops and get a lot bigger payday if you do get it there. So I will be looking to do stuff like that. I am playing London in the flex. I like your Mooney call a lot, right in that price range. Big time upside. I like Ray McCloud a lot. All three of them had good usage. A lot of 3 receiver sets last week. It's clearly those 3. I'm in on all of them. The worst receiving prop is Ray McCloud of the 3, 28.5 yards. That's not bad at all. So in on them. As far as the other side, yeah, obviously the easy one's Devontae Smith. I think I like him more in the captain than the flex. Again, you can easily play him in both, but my thought process, if he gets there, he absolutely nukes. Otherwise, you can get away from it. Yeah, like the Paris Campbell stuff, I think it's Johnny Wilson, but then Britton Covey mixes in a bit, but then there's Paris Campbell. Like, I don't really know what to do with any of them. Tambo, you said obviously you would not just naturally get 2 people of those 3 in the same lineup. I would make sure you do not.
Wilson's questionable too. That's the other thing we're waiting on here, right? So we got to see hamstring injury and was questionable as of yesterday still. So that's where people are getting the idea somebody else is coming in. And then it's Britton Covey with one of, probably be at most one of him or Campbell, probably if Campbell gets elevated and Wilson was out. But I just don't see lineups that you're going to end up with both of them anyway. So to me, it's like I set enough rules. I try and keep them limited if I can. If I get that, then interesting, but very unlikely. So that would be kind of how I would see it setting up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, just try and find out who's wide receiver 3 for the Phillies behind Jahan Dotson. If Wilson's out and it's the people saying it's Paris Campbell or it's Covey, whichever one. If Wilson's out, it makes it, I guess, a little easier, but one of them is going to probably get you 0. And the other one really might get you 0 too, because Hurts is going to be looking at Saquon first, Smith first, and then Jahan Dotson, Goddard before all of them. So maybe it's just fade all those bums, because at the end of the day, you don't need the cheap guys down there. So
well, I was just going to add that too, and Hoop can chime in because he's already hit on it. But I would also say if you get to that point, you could almost lump together. You may group yourself out of it, but how often is this really going to group yourself out of it? Where it's at most one of, let's say Wilson is out. I know that Aaron's in there talking about it. Some other stuff we can do. He liked Johnny Wilson popping as a flex value. If he's out and they elevate Campbell, like someone said, Britton, I think it's Covey. I can't never remember how he says last name, but only returns punts. You could still at most one those 2 and include Calcaterra in the group. Like, how often are you even going to need 2 punts to make the whole slate work, let alone those 3? It's just between one of them. Someone sneaks a random touchdown. At least then you've only got it so that you're kind of mixing it up. And then the rest of the stuff can sort of fall in line. But I definitely think it's a possibility. And Joe just hopped in on it there. I think it's a possibility Calcaterra comes through. I think Mooney's interesting. I think one of, if Wilson's in or Campbell is interesting more than the Dotson and McLeods that are just those are going to lead to all the dupes. That's going to be the dupe trains if those ones hit, because they're good on paper and they make everything work. So that's how I'm looking at it. But everyone out there that's wondering, like, I'm playing on that way on purpose. Like, I'm going to try and chop it as little as possible if I can.
Yeah. Before you go to Hoop, last thing, if you're playing the Rays, that stuff, that's like when you drop down from Goddard to them, from Pitts to them, from London to Mooney. Like, that's the way you got to get the level to drop it. Talk about it.
Yeah. I'll start, I guess, at the bottom with the cheap guys, because that was kind of like the main talking point there, I thought. Jalen Hurts is a running quarterback, so he's going to run the ball. His next option is going to be a combination of Devonta Smith, Goddard, and Saquon Barkley, right? So there's like 4 offensive options before you get to any of these guys, including Dotson. Like I initially liked Dotson, but seeing that he is like, what ownership do we have on Dotson?
We got him at 15%.
No, it's going to be higher than that.
It's going to be higher once we get to the update.
Once we get the update in there and everything, it's going to be higher. But to see that he's going to be substantially higher owned than some of these other guys scares me a little bit, because I just feel like he's probably going to have to catch a bomb. Could it happen? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not like he's going to get like 7 targets or anything tonight. And then you have the cheap guys after that. So yeah, I would definitely be setting a rule, and I'd probably include Dotson, to be honest with you. I just can't imagine a scenario where Dotson and another cheap Eagles wide receiver are unoptimal. Like, what are the odds of that? It seems like astronomical. I don't know the exact numbers, but it seems like it would be a crazy, crazy run out for that to happen. So I'd actually include Dotson in that group and feel pretty good about it. I just can't see a scenario where it's Dotson and another Eagles wide receiver that you need in flex on those Hurts captain teams. I'll have some exposure to the cheap guys, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be small amounts. Like, I'm not going overboard on any of them. Ray Mooney, I like the Mooney call. I think he's a good play. Ray McLeod, I'm good with that. 7 targets last week, 3K. He's probably popular, but it's crazy to me that Dotson probably ends up more popular than guys we already know about. McLeod had a 7-target game. Mooney's a legit player, and Dotson's going to be higher owned. So that's just one thing to take note of. Drake London, I'm not – I mean, again, it could be a bias for sure. There's no doubt about it. But, like, I'm not forcing him into my lineups. Like, I'll have some of them, but it's not going to be like I want to get way overweight on Dotson. Devonta Smith, it's going to be just, like, as much as I can get. He should obviously get a lot of targets, big upside. But I do like the call. I can't remember which one of you guys said it, but, like, almost prefer him in the captain spot because, man, like, when he does well, it seems like he does really, really well, and you might just need him. So I think he's a better captain play. Going to play him in the flex too, but just seems like when he gets the job done, he gets it done in like a huge way, like slate breaking way. And I think that covers everyone. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, you can also play the name game too. The Atlanta side, much more applicable. Daryl Money, Payday McLeod. You got a couple options over there that you can roll to. And on the other side, it's Jahan Dropson. And if he's dropping them balls, that ain't no good for your lineup. So if you want to play the name game, I think it's the Atlanta side, but I'm kind of with you on all that stuff. Our guy Newen said play Dotson only in the captain, no flex. Definitely would get you different, and then fill it in with the best plays. But we talked about that. Like, that's, again, if you're doing that, it's fine. But I would set it up in Shiptimizer or whatever you're using for your optimizer to build that to leave money on the table, because anybody that goes to someone like him up top is just going to fill it out with all the best dudes. And you're in mass dupe trains that I'm not playing. I'm trying to avoid.
And it's more so now than it was before because of the soft pricing. It's like you instantly can get all those guys. Even in the past, though, like when pricing was legit and everyone was a little more expensive, like even if you did punt off or play a cheap captain, you still had to put some thought into it. Nowadays, if you put in any optimizer you use, you put in one of the top captains and don't change the pricing or anything, or one of the cheap captains, and don't change the max and min salary, you're going to get like the exact same lineup because it's just going to jam in all the expensive guys.
I'm trying to see some lineups here too real quick before we go to tight end, because we spent some time there. But, you know, did you see the stat too? Like, the passing touchdowns are so far down. They're like 20 off the pace of last year. Someone's like, oh, great, we're going to get 20 passing touchdowns tonight to keep up with it. It's obviously not the case, but if you did lineups tonight that include something like this, like both running backs, a couple of tight ends, you avoid a lot of what everybody else is talking about. And realistically, Title, this is a lot of volume, possibly, especially if we get those 2017 scores, stuff like that. Like, if you ended up actually thinking that's going to be the one, Saquon, Bijan, Goddard, Pitts, I mean, that's definitely a different way to go. And you could still fit quarterbacks in there. Like, you see what's left. You've got 11,100, so you could still get there. But just to say, that's another way you could set it up differently, right? Where you could even get, and this can work in high scores. This can work in low scores. And that's another thing I'm always looking at when I'm trying to compare it out, is how different is it from the field? It's different. How much is, it's kind of fits with what's been going on. And then also, in a low scoring game, this could just be all the volume. In a high scoring game, it could be all the scoring plus the volume. So trying to look at Showdown a little bit differently and certain angles in to attack, this would be one of them for me for sure.
I love that. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I love both running backs today. And at the tight end position, we're looking at Pitts at 21% in the flex, and then Goddard 29% in the flex. those are numbers that seem very fair to me. So I'm definitely playing tight ends. They're in that mid-tier price kind of where, I mean, Drake London 7-8. Both Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert can easily outscore Drake London. There's 1K minimum savings, 2K minimum savings. You can leave right there. The craziest world, do they outscore Chris Cousins or Chris Cousins? That's how bad this dude is.
That's what we call him on primetime games.
Yeah, that's how bad he is. I don't even know his first
time.
name.
I like that.
Yeah, so 9K Cousins. Easily I can drop down and go to Pitts, go to Goddard, save a lot of money there. So they're going to be on the field a lot, have 2 touchdown upside, very fair prices, very fair ownership. I'm in on the tight ends, and I love that build.
Andy Dalton starting in week 3. We just talked on the review show, down about what they're going to do with Bryce Young. And then you guys and I were talking pre-show about
way better. Who we were talking, even before you came in, Hoop and I were.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were just talking about. How much
better.
He's going to roll his shitty ass out there. I guess that answers the question. Game over. I mean, it's got to be game over for him.
That would have been a long season to watch that.
Man, yeah. Big news. Yeah, that's definitely big news.
I do see these builds. I dropped Goddard down to Calcaterra. Give me a little bit more money. Give a little bit.
You're playing. So all right, let's talk about it. What are you doing with the tight end twos? You're playing these guys?
I'm definitely playing both of them, actually. Yeah, like Charlie, what's his name? Old Chuck Werner. He was out there a little bit last week too, so he could get in the mix. And Calcaterra, who we talked about, they talked about the 12 personnel. They talked about people looking for. Everyone's going to be looking for the cheaper guy, right? Is it Johnny Wilson? Is it, if he plays, is it Covey? Is it going to be Campbell? Who's it going to be over there? Well, what if it's just Calcaterra? It's the backup tight end. Like, these are the ones that can actually catch a touchdown. You're talking 7+ points just on that. Even if it's a 1-yarder, you're still getting something out of it. Like, that 7 points can add up. To Hoop's point of what's been going on all season, yeah, it's tougher to see them happen. But it's, again, early in the season. This is the type of game set where I could see it, and I need a couple guys to get different with. These ones would actually make sense to me. They get snaps, they play, they can catch balls. This is where I would still use them, but I obviously like Pitts, Goddard more, and they'll be captain consideration, especially Goddard, obviously. So tight end twos and captain, no. Tight end twos in the pool, absolutely. So I don't need to put the full lineup up, but someone just put a lineup in there that you're chopping it million ways, especially if it uses all the money. I didn't look it up, but it looks like it uses a lot of the money. Just, again, to each their own. Play Showdown how you want to play it. I am very open and honest about how I play it. When I ship, it's usually for 50, 60K, 90K. So it's for a bigger number. It's not going to be very often that it's for a light number. So that's all in the player, how you want to do it. But for me, I'm trying to avoid that stuff. I'm not trying to get stupid. I'm just trying to get unique. That might be my new line. I'm not trying to be stupid. I'm just trying to be unique. It's definitely something that I'm trying to work on. So, Hoop, anything else to add at tight end or anything else you want to bring up there?
I was just saying, if that team fits, that might end up being like the biggest chop of all time if it hits, because that looks like the most obvious build maybe ever. Let's see. I just wanted to see what it adds up to.
I assume they think because it's a 5-1 that it's like they're in good shape, but 5-1s will be much higher tonight than we've seen all season, really.
It's got to almost zero out, I'm assuming.
49ers against the Jets, but the Jets had all those options. Philly against Green Bay, but Green Bay had all those options. Kansas City at all.
It does zero out.
Yeah. Come on. All right. Hoop, if nothing else on the tight ends, talk through kicker and defense, because, again, you always have your same take on it. New people watching, different slate. And then also if you are running like 5-1s or 4-2s, how can it fit in? Like, you can use these defenses against these guys. You could have a Cousins with the defense against them. I think there's a lot of different stuff you can do here.
Yeah. In terms of the defense, if you watch these shows, you know what I typically go with. Tonight's going to be a little bit different just because I think there are paths where the Eagles just absolutely dominate. You have a statue back there. I mean, Kirk Cousins could not move. I mean, he was struggling to move. I could see the Eagles defense having a lot of success tonight. And if the ownership numbers are accurate, can you pull that up real quick? The defense there, just to see what the ownership's looking like specifically on the
Falcons,
Eagles.
19 Eagles.
I'm gonna rare situation where I might take an overweight stance on a defense, and that would be with the Eagles, just because I think there's a chance that they just beat the shit out of the Falcons tonight and able to rack up a lot of sacks and whatnot on Kirk Cousins. So I'll be in on the Eagles defense in a bigger way than I normally am on defenses. And then kickers are back, man. Kickers are back to getting the job done. And, definitely like Elliott at the 48 number. I'll have some coup at 5K, but definitely prefer Elliott 4,800. Love the kicker play there. So, I'm going to have a lot of Eagles kicker and a lot of Eagles defense.
Yeah, I don't even know if it gave us – did it give us coup? Let me see here. Oh, yeah, so 18% on him, 23 on Elliott. It gave us underweight on both, but pretty close on Elliott. And obviously you saw him fit that sort of optimal version of what they were trying to build out there. So, I think, like I said, the defense would probably be where I could go up top, maybe Elliott. It'd be Eagles D and Elliott. I don't really see the Atlanta side going anywhere up top. And again, when I do that stuff, I'm looking to leave money on the table instead of if it fits, Bijan as the workhorse, as the one guy on the opposite side and a 5-1 version of that. Well, then maybe I play Mooney. And I just hope it's a late bomb to Mooney and the rest of the guys just do their work and leave that whole 5,000 on the table. So little things like that. That's, how I'm looking at it. Anything else there, Title, for you when it comes to kickers and defense?
I haven't 150 since the first night. So if I was 150, I probably would keep them in. I usually run 30 to 60 or whatever. So I pretty much always X out captains, kickers, and D. No right, wrong, and different. I want to jam the guys I like when I have more limited teams. Like you say, the less teams you play, the tighter. I almost always play them in the flex, though. Like, one way to get different is Falcons defense will be really low owned. When you're talking play Alcantara, the backup tight end for the Falcons, all that to get different. Playing Falcons will get you different to an extent in the flex, so that's when I'll use them. Yeah, Cousins looked awful. Definitely have interest for Eagles. Kickers are showing upside, like Hoop's saying. These teams are stalling. They're kicking long field goals. These coaches, like 4th and inches, and they're sending out kickers. I mean, man, if they're going to be doing that.
It seems like a reversal from like the trend of the last couple seasons. You saw all these teams going for it. Now it's like they're fully reversing course and 4th and inches, kicking a 50-yarder. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people, man?
They're on 70-yarders and 68-yarders, thinking about it and give them checking it back. So, yeah, they're really getting after it.
Man, I mean.
So if they're doing that, like Kirk Cousins down to Jake Elliott, you leave that. You can solo ship that way all the cheese. Yeah. So I'm in on these kickers for sure.
Dude, on a side note though, all right, like how bad were those challenges? I don't know if you guys watched the game.
Yeah,
like, how bad, bro? That was terrible. Like that. I mean, that was so bad. Both of them.
Your tweet. That was the most obvious inbounds.
Right?
Doesn't it have to get called down from upstairs where they're literally watching to the coach?
Someone saw the replay and said, let's challenge that. Like, man, both of those were so stupid. Crazy.
This could keep it in check, too. What's his name? AJ Terrell or whatever, that guy. Like, if they are shutting some stuff down and now they got one less guy to worry about, that could definitely be a thing that keeps the game a little bit closer. Just for those of you out there just thinking, like the 5-1. First of all, you're chopping it 5,000 ways. Second of all, it's probably not. It may not even be a 5-1 night. So lots of different things that you can set up. Pretty condensed offense, at least somewhat on the Atlanta side that you can still get to. So I don't hate that. I think you can definitely play double kicker. And I was thinking about the shirt. You have those shirts that say "I'm with stupid." Maybe on the front it just says "I'm not stupid," and on the back it says "I'm just unique." And that's the one, right? I'm not stupid. I'm just unique. I'm just trying to be different here, man. That's it. So I don't have much else on the kickers and Ds. I don't have much else actually at all, but we'll have it all up and more over on SHIPIT Nation. We'll have everything covered for you there. We've got showdown coverage for projections. We'll have the stone. It's actually the starting point is already up, so members can go check it out now. We'll have our core report up, including our guy, us three, and our guy Scarface. He's been on a bit of a heater all sports lately, just finding his way around.
I don't even think you need to call it a heater anymore. The guy he doesn't miss.
To start the season, yeah. I mean, he's always on. It's a lifetime. He's just always the best.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't matter the sport. I mean, he just hits. Scarface is a man.
Yeah, he is. Well, we'll see. Maybe get him on some of these shows upcoming too. Talk to him a little about that today. We'll see about that setup. But FanDuel, they always like you to wrap it up with some FanDuel stuff.
Yeah.
What shirt's going to be owned over there tonight?
Yeah, there's going to be massive ownership in the MVP spot. I mean, 17.5, but there's a lot of cheap guys. I'll talk about that in a second. But 17.5 in the captain. We always talk about it. The quarterbacks have an even bigger advantage over there without the full PPR. Very tough to avoid, but ownership will be massive on him. I guess another thing that stands out is definitely these Eagles guys are all pretty damn cheap. So obviously no adjustment with they didn't have time to adjust with AJ Brown being out, but 13.5 for Barkley. Bijan 16K, so $2,500 difference between Barkley and Bijan. If you happen to like Bijan over Barkley, the ownership discrepancy should be pretty big with that $2,500 price break. So that's one thing that stands out. Devonta is 11.5, Goddard 9.5, very cheap price tags with AJ Brown being ruled out. Jake Elliott's only 8,500. I like that price tag. Kickers less valuable on FanDuel, but 8,500 is kind of the minimum price for the kickers, I'd say, over there. And that's good. And then we have all the cheap guys. Mooney is 8K, Dotson 7,500, Ray McLeod 7K, and then I think there's even cheaper down low. Some of those other punts that we talked about are in like the 6K range. So it's going to be easy to play Hurts and the captain. Clearly the best play over there. What can you do to get different? It's even more difficult on FanDuel to get different because you only have, if you do play Hurts and the captain, you only have 4 other spots. You can think leaving salary on the table is going to make you unique. It's not. It's very difficult to get unique over on FanDuel. My piece of advice is if you're playing, if you like Hurts MVP, probably just lock it in and get as many different combinations as you can, depending on how many teams you make.
And I never talk about it that often, but I'm just steering a little bit more volume and stuff. I like FanDuel quite a bit, not as much for not for Showdown. So don't take this the wrong way, but I will note it now because I've been on the site a little bit more this year to start the season. I obviously like it for main slate, but for Showdown, I'm not in love with it. I wish they went the basketball route and they had like NBA where there's 3 different point projection things. But the one thing I'll say is they price up other like guys that usually people would call loser plays to almost the same. Like Dotson is 7,500. Calcaterra is 7K. Nobody is clicking Calcaterra over there and maybe they shouldn't, but that's the other way you have to almost look at it for these horrible Showdown games they have. You got to get the 2%ers in because like Hoop said, even when you leave money, it doesn't necessarily do shit. If you need like multiple 2% guys in there if you want to somehow do it, and you got to look for those spots and know that the projection is way off, but that I'm still just going to play this loser just in case he catches one. Loser in the sense that there's a reason nobody's on them, right? They're not likely to do anything, nor does the projection show that. So just another note over on FanDuel. What was the last thing I was going to say? Oh, it came up here, Greg. How the Lister League works is the same every week, just so you know and other members know. We got it. They did make it bigger. It's 2,000. It is still rake free. It's the sickest payout structure going. It's $12.50 to first, 125th for 10th. You win $100 for 16th. It's a $5 5 max. It's the best tournament going. We put it in the Discord for members first. Fill it up as much as possible to give the members the benefit of it being a Ship It Nation listener league. And then I put it out on X at ToeTagginTambo, and you guys can find it there. And it fills up. The quicker we fill it, the more it goes. But the more it grows, I should say. But also members first. So it's in the Discord. It's pinned in the channel. And title?
Our guy Ray, hits title with like the best possible compliment on the way out here. I mean, you definitely like to see that.
Don't be stroking Hoop Razor. Come on now.
Looks like Hoop with the glasses. I thought I was giving title a shot to take a shot, but Hoop comes in first over the top to say, hey, what a nice compliment.
Yeah.
Any rebuttal?
It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good night for title when you get a compliment like that.
As long as I ship all the money like Hoop usually does, then it'll be a good night. Good night as well.
Hey, I just want my bank account to look like Hoop. I'm good with everything else. I'll take my bad looks as long as I can have his bank account. We're all set, my friend. So that's gonna do it, guys. Go ahead. Anything else, Hoop? You got something? I'm gonna close it out.
I want his hat as well.
All right. I got one of those too. I do have his hat.
Man, this is a sick hat. Yeah. I actually got on there. I think it was at the DK store, to be honest. I think they got him right on there.
Ooh, okay.
I think we got him at the golf fly final.
Are you sure?
Yes.
We went back and forth on this. So I don't think so.
Yes, that's why we both have the exact same one.
Fairly certain. All right. Yeah. All right.
How else did we get it? Maybe it was a gift. I don't know. Either way.
I bought, but it is a sick hat. I will say it's nice.
Yeah, just ship it over. You know the address. Just ship it over.
Yeah. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this one. For Hoop, for Title, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.